Hi, this is Ravi. In my previous talk, in my previous lecture, I talked about the early Sassanians. I had come up to the reign of Varaharan II. Of course, I left out an important event that happened in the reign of Shapur I. This was a time when an Arab named Odenathus defeated the Romans and carved out, defeated, I mean, the local Roman governor and carved out an independent kingdom in Syria. He ruled for quite some time, and following his death, his widow Zenobia became the queen. And of course, she has carved out a name for herself as one of the most remarkable women in history. Okay, now coming back to the Sassanians. Following the rule of Varaharan II, there was a Varaharan III. So Varaharan I, Varaharan II, and Varaharan III. Three kings were there. And then a period of anarchy followed after that. And the king was also murdered in 309 AD. This king wasn't a significant ruler. I think his name is Ormuzd, I think. He wasn't a significant ruler. But his son following his death, following his untimely death, his son was crowned the king. But the son had not yet been born. He was crowned the king while he was in his mother's womb, and he ruled for 70 years. It was this king whom I am speaking of is Shapur II, who ruled from 309 to 379. Parallels can be found in South India, where the Rashtrakuta king of the 9th century, Amogha Varsha, ruled for some 70 odd years, like Shapur. And in recent times, in the example of Louis XIV, who also ruled for about 70 odd years in France in the 17th century. But Amogha Varsha, but unlike Shapur, Amogha Varsha was not crowned king before he was born. Now coming back to Shapur, he ruled for about 70 years. And by the time his rule came to an end, there wasn't anyone who had. There were very few people who had lived during the time of his, during the reign of his predecessors, and who remembered his predecessors. There were few who remembered the reigns of his predecessors. So these 70 years were Shapur actually, the length of his reign was a bit too high, but a look at his reign reveals that he wasn't an accomplished ruler by any means. For his reign was marked by a large number of wars with the Roman Empire, most of which ended in a stalemate. Following Shapur's death, his son became the became the Sassanian emperor, and once again a lot of small emperors ruled over Sassanid Persia. During this period lived two emperors with the name Yazdakard. Yazdakard is derived from Yazata and Kard. Yazata in Persian meant angel, and Kard means made or made by the angels. There is a city named Yazd in southern Iran. Of course, probably derived from Yazatas, angelic city perhaps. Yazdakard the first was named Ramastras, or the most quiet, for he was he looked like he had he appeared saint-like, probably to the person who had given the title. But at the same time, he was also known as a very cruel a religious fanatic who persecuted Christians, especially in Armenia. So he was an interesting mixture of opposites, um, if we are to go by these stories. And there was no Varaharan the fourth. Varaharan the fourth was also known as Varaharan the fourth was also known as Kirman Shah, because he was the king of he was the governor of Kirman during the reign of his father and predecessor. Um, now this this Varaharan the fourth was he was also a cruel tyrant like Yazdikar the first, but he suffered a more terrible fate. He was murdered by his soldiers. After Shapur II, the next most famous king in the chronological order was Bahram Varaharan the fifth, or Bahram the fifth. Um, um, he he acquired fame. His fame even survived the Sassanid Empire, and until modern, and lasted until modern times. Much perhaps no other Sassanid emperor rivaled him in fame, other than the two Khusros, Khusro Noshirvan and Pervez, or Pervez, Khusro Pervez. Well, Varaharan the fifth, or Bahram the fifth, was also known as Bahram Gur, because he was fond of hunting a wild animal known as gur, a kind of wild boar. And due to this reason, he was known as Bahram Gur. There are many folk tales in Punjabi about him, legends about him, Punjabi legends, folk legends about him. This isn't surprising because during Sassanid, for most of the Sassanid times, northwest India, including Punjab, was a part of the Sassanid Empire. There is even an island named there is even an island in Lakshadweep named after him as Bairamgur.